Wow. Okay. So it's been a long journey with Justin. So like I said, I think he was about 11, not quite 12 when he started coming to me. And that was through I think Lisa had heard about my work. And being just desperate, I guess she thought she'd try me out. And Justin and I connected straight away. Justin's very easy to connect with straight away. But in saying that too, it's been a journey with Justin too. He's come a long way. Um, he he has grown so much from a little boy to a man right before my eyes. So you sort of have this because I'm blessed to be able to do therapy with a lot of young people for many years because I stay in my job. I don't change around. This is my business. I get to see them grow. And it's great for kids on the spectrum because they don't have to change therapists all the time and get to know someone. So with Justin, it's been a long journey of him and I working together. And, you know, not always easy times. There's been times where he's got a bit cranky with me if I've pushed him a little bit too hard. And that's the beauty of working in that. It's a relationship. It becomes a real working relationship. So there are times that he probably really enjoyed therapy, and there were times that he probably thought, I don't really enjoy therapy much at all today. So it's a journey. And again, with Lisa and with Ian, it's a journey for them too. Parents get a diagnosis of a child, and that can be overwhelming. It can be, what does that mean? What does it look like? What's the future look like for my child? Most parents grieve. Most mothers grieve for a long time. They go through a period of, is my child going to be able to live independently? Is my child going to ever get married? Will I ever be a grandmother to my child? So there's so much unknown when parents first get a diagnosis. And that can be all overwhelming and take a long time for some families to get their head around the process of that. On top of that, then they're trying to put in supports for their child. They're trying to put in supports out of school, inside school. They're trying to manage siblings who often feel like the child with disability is getting all the attention. So they're trying to split themselves into so many pieces that it can have such a huge impact on their marriage as well. So when we're talking about children with disabilities, it's not in isolation to the family system. And it's not in isolation to they cannot be supported just in that family system. It does literally take a community. It takes a village. And it takes a village of people who are willing to stick it out for the long haul, preferably, especially with kids on the spectrum, because they don't like change much, and they like that predictability of what's going to happen. So yeah, have I talked too much?
No, that's good. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So your role has been in helping Justin on his journey, or is it both Justin and his parents?
Justin and his parents. So, you know, I've had times where I've seen, you know, had Lisa venting, and sometimes it purely is just they need someone to vent with, a private space where they're not going to be judged, to be able to share what they're experiencing. At other times, and that has been a space for Ian as well. At other times, it's been a space where I've been able to help, you know, advise what might help with Justin. And because sometimes it's hard to know for a parent how much they should push, what they should expect. So that's always challenging too, to sort of be able to say to parents, yeah, you know, don't let them hoodwink you. They can do more than they actually are letting on they can do. So that kind of thing too. And sometimes that's a relief for parents too, because they're not quite sure, you know, sometimes how far they should push, what they should do. And, you know, as like any child, they dig their heels in when they're at home. They can do far more outside of home sometimes than they're willing to do at home. So, yeah.
Have you had a chance to have a look at Lisa's book? And if so, what are your impressions?
Yeah, I have had a chance to look at it. I wrote a little blurb in it. My impression was that it struck me the complexity of the journey that families go through. You know, I see that firsthand all the time, and I see how challenging it can be to find supports and the time that takes. And if you're a parent and you're a working parent and you're studying and you're, you know, there's so much going on in your life and you're trying to put all that into, it's not like you've just got a neurotypical child that you can kiss on the cheek and send off to school every day and then, you know, say, come on, do your chores, do your homework. It's not like that. It's the everyday saying the same thing day after day after day. Most of these parents say to me, why is it every day I have to say, can you put your school clothes on? Can you clean your teeth? Can you pack your bag? Can you do it every day for 10 years? So it's this constant, you know, that you're always on the job. So for parents with children with disabilities, they don't have days off. They don't have time out. And often, you know, we live in a society too where often a lot of them don't have family around who can be of help. And then you're in a situation where you're putting your trust in strangers, trying to get to know strangers that might be able to help be a, you know, a support, you know, to give you some respite, which is really challenging for most families. For those that are linked with churches, that can have that extended family, the church family, that can be really beneficial, but not all churches have quite got there yet in knowing how best, you know, we can support families with kids with disabilities, because the reality is a lot of the average church member isn't even aware themselves of the challenges these families go through day after day after day after day. And sadly, a lot of relationships break up, a lot of marriages break up. And that's the tragedy.
Yeah. Lisa seems to mention hope a lot. It's a theme or title of the book. What kind of hope is she talking about?
For myself and my work with families, hope has been one of the things that I use a lot. And I say hope as in having other people engage. And when I shared that in my blurb with Lisa, she just went, oh, that's absolutely, that covers it in a nutshell. And that's what I've shared with families. If we can have hope, if we can get people around us that will engage with us, that will support us, and not stepping in and saying, you need to do this, 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 and this, but it's coming alongside. One of the challenging things is too that people don't realise is sometimes, imagine what it's like. You've got your family and then you need supports and they might need to come into your home. And all of a sudden, you've got some strange guy coming in your home, helping your adolescent son, you know, shower and get moving in the morning because he's decided to refuse to listen to mum and dad. So a carer can come in and say, come on, mate, get your butt out of bed, get yourself in a shower, get yourself dressed, come on, you need to have a shave, and then they've got to juggle themselves around having strangers coming into the home and doing that in their space where home's your space. Then you've got siblings that then have to deal with that as well. So there's so many complexing challenges when we talk about, you know, having other people engage as well. While it can bring hope, it also means that you've got to learn to readjust all the time as a family unit. And that can be challenging. And it's constant challenging, adjusting all the time.
Can you share any particular moments of joy that you have had with Justin?
Oh, gosh, there's been so many. Now you're going to get me teary. You shouldn't do that. Justin always wanted to be a policeman. So when he first started coming to me, he'd talk to me about wanting to join the police force. And Lisa would sort of look at me and say, what are you saying? I say, you never crush a spirit. You just, if that's what he thinks, if that's what he wants to do, we'll encourage him every way we can. So I used to use that. If you want to be a policeman, you're going to have to be able to do A, B, C, and D. So it'd sort of encourage him. And then when Justin was 14 and he went to one of the with the school, they go down to have their youth conference at Hillsong. He came back just this glowing, on fire young man. And he said to me, he really experienced Jesus for himself. It wasn't the Jesus of his parents. It was himself. He really felt filled with the Holy Spirit, and he felt an absolute call to be a pastor. And he just knew what he was meant to do. And from that point on, he never stopped talking about it. He still hasn't stopped talking about it. And I guess for me, to think that, when you look from human eyes perspective, sometimes you think it's not going to happen. But sometimes God has a plan that's beyond our understanding. And Justin's studying now in ministry. The church has come on board. He's getting supported. He's growing. He's getting a deeper understanding of how he needs to interact with people. He's sharing with me some of the stuff that he's helping support at the church, and with the food pantries part that's opened up there, and how he's going to be trained in helping with that. So there's so much more that the doors that are opening for him. You just think, wow, this is really amazing. And again, it shows the importance of community in helping to give these young people, these beautiful people, a place to feel valued, that they have something to offer and give. And if we can have a community that come around and do that, these kids can succeed beyond what we expect.
You mentioned community. What are the obvious things, and perhaps some of the not so obvious things, that community groups, schools, and churches can do to support families of children that have special needs?
Justin has been incredibly lucky, because the school he's gone to was amazing in the support systems they put in for Justin, which can truly help alleviate the stress of parents. So for Justin, they made sure he had support academically. He had tutorials where he could go and get some support with homework and support with doing assignments, so that everything then didn't go home and be put onto the parents. And that's another thing. They took him for an extra year to continue supporting him and preparing him so that he would be ready to leave. And we could have more time to get some more things in place. Because again, for Lisa and for Ian, it's that constant planning ahead all the time for what's the next step, what's the next step, what's the next step. And that's going on now, ready for where he goes when he's finished, sort of what's his next step for ministry-wise and where he can go. So it's a constant journey of that happening. So the school was brilliant. The church has been great. Justin's also connected in with CIT, that's been able to help him continue on his courses that he's finished in he can do in hospitality. There is other connections that seem to be popping up now for Justin, maybe to have an opening to go into to other ministries. So it's constantly ongoing in what's available out there. But the drive behind this has really been Lisa. Lisa's constantly driving and pushing the boundaries, and advocating for her son, tirelessly advocating for her son. Sometimes, you know, she's even said to me, sometimes I come across as so aggressive, but she's because she's fighting for her son, and she's made some incredible, you know, progresses that other people will be able to look at and go, wow, you know, we can do that too.
Mm. Who do you think, who is this book for, and why should they read it?
I think this book is for, I don't think this book is just for people with children with disabilities. I think this book is great for grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, family members, church members, anybody who has an interest in understanding how you can support someone with disabilities, how you can support a family. It gives you an idea of what Lisa's very open in the book about some of the struggles she went through, the things she sort of had to give up, but the battles with that as well, in sort of like, no, I want my life to be normal. I don't want it to change. And the battles that you sort of go through, and then realizing that you also have to self-care, or you won't be any good to anybody. So I think this book gives people a deeper understanding of what it can be like for a family going through this journey. So I think it's a book for everybody to read who wants to get a better understanding of kids with special needs. And I think in this day and age, we need to do better. We need to know better, and we really don't have an excuse not to. And I think as Christians, we should be being the best. We should be modeling the best practice for how to be community for all kids, but particularly for our most vulnerable.